because of lack of that bhav in our mind, that whatever is there is anitya. So words are anitya, maun is permanent. Whatever words are generated, they are generated from this maun, and after the words are gone, the maun is always going to be there. That silence. The silence separates those words. Without the separation, the words have no meaning.
Yeah.
If I speak a sentence of 5 words, each word has to be separated by that little bit of silence, microseconds, or whatever may be the case. If I remove that silence and put all these words together, it has no value. You cannot understand anything. So no matter how this mind is thinking of itself so much and speaking this eloquent speech and this and then all that, that silence has its own value. Without that silence, has no value at all.
That's good meaning.
Isn't it?
Good way of saying it.
Yeah. That silence
We never
is the
realized
bearer of those words. So no matter how many speeches are given out, without that silence, it has no value.
That's right.
So no matter how much we speak of our lot of individual entity and this and that, but we don't realize the emptiness that is there, that supports us, the space that supports everything that is movable and immovable in this world is separated by that space. Remove that space, we are all back to the Big Bang. Tiny single spot we all came from. Has no existence. We have no existence of you and me and all those pleasures and displeasures and hatreds and angers and whatever we walking around with, all that comes to a halt.
So we are kind of made up out of space.
The space was created at the same time the world was created. So space is also an illusion. The illusion is there because of the space. So the space was also created at the same time the matter was created. And along with that came the time. The time is again, is movement of one object against the other. Earth against the sun. So again, time is an illusion, space is an illusion. So when you remove all these illusions, illusion is in your head. Because we keep the time alive by thinking what we did yesterday or the day before. If we had no memory of any of these things, time doesn't exist.
Oh, I see.
Time doesn't exist. Time exists only at the mind level. Space exists. Even if I have to see you and you at the same time, there is a microseconds of difference between the time I see him and you.
Right.
And if I remove that,
Then
then there is nothing. So space is also an illusion.
time
So
is
we live an illusory life. All this illusion is supported by silence, space, whatever you call that. And if you go beyond that, even the space is an illusion. So we are living a totally illusory life. Time, space, all these things don't mean nothing. All the thoughts that you have is about, again, material and everything. What if there is no space between me and Deepak? Yes, I like him, but it's too close for comfort. And we are stuck with each other. And that's not fun either. So, sorry. I like you, but not like that much. You know? So we have to realize that all these pleasures and all the experiences that we have, all are relative. There is only one experience where this space, the time, and that nothing is needed. And that's the experience of samadhi. Where nothing is needed. Subject and the object. If I want to see Deepak, I have to be a subject and he has to be an object. If he wants to see me, he is a subject, I am the object. So subject-object relationship is always has to be there to have an experience. That's why your question comes is, how can you experience without the senses? Like everything about this so-called experience is subject-object relationship. That experience is built into trichotomy. I have to be there, he has to be there, and the awareness between the two, the exchange of information has to take place between the senses. He may be there, I may be there, maybe I'm comatose. Even though my eyes are open, I'm not registering anything. Then, or maybe I'm reading a beautiful book that I didn't even notice that he's there. My mind is not available. So the mind has to be available for me to have that experience of subject-object. So that is the duality. the duality experience is always limited, is based on the objects. So we are living, but when we remove that duality, when we go deep into meditation, into dhyan, samadhi and everything, when you reach the very high level, you experience yourself. And forget about yourself, even you dissolve yourself. See, little by little you go into that, the awareness that you have to experience this world, that awareness, the chit function of this Sat, Chit and Anand, you start experiencing yourself. The subject which was there, which I was with my awareness to have the experiences of the world, now all the objects disappear, but I still remain. And then you experience yourself. Subject and object merge. And that when that merger takes place, you receive that bliss. And for that experience, you don't need anything. And that's permanent. That's all the time there, 24/7. And that experience is what we're aiming for. So when we realize that all these objects are anitya, why attach yourself to any of these things or anybody? Whatever is there is there. Whenever whatever you like is also there, whatever you don't like is also there. It's the liking and disliking that generates the thoughts, and that takes you away from samadhi. So when you want to experience samadhi, you have to accept every single thing that is there in front of you and realize the impermanence of it at the same time. So rag is also not going to stay there. Then there is no point of having any rag or attachment to any objects. Dvesh, once you realize that it's impermanent, why get upset? It's going to go too. So like anything.
But
So
when you're aware of all that, like being not permanent, how do you enjoy it?
enjoyment is the existence as an observer.
Because if you, the moment you realize that, well, this happiness is not going to be there, you're not enjoying it anymore.
That's where
But then you're thinking of future.
that's
You're
where
not thinking
the,
You
of
are
present
enjoying
moment.
your
the
existence.
illusion. You are enjoying the illusion.
Alright, this is what it is. When you dissolve yourself, the pleasure will come from inside.
So then it will not come from outside.
It won't come from
You're
it.
not enjoying that moment or object, you're enjoying yourself.
Exactly. Not even yourself, it's coming from inside.
Right,
And it's not even you anymore. It's the consciousness.
right.
When you have, say, desire to see only beautiful people and not the ugly people, right? For example, right? When the beautiful people are there, you enjoy it. When the ugly people are there, you're not enjoying, you're unhappy, this and that. But when you really go above all these things, your existence alone generates so much pleasure, you're enjoying your own existence.
Right.
Because your requirement to be happy are so limited that external situation don't matter. You are in a permanent state of existence and the bliss and samadhi all the time. Whoever is in front of you doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You are happy.
Right.
That's what Rajni says, that your desire is dissolved completely. In fact, you go to the samadhi and Paramatma comes to you and he asks you, what do you want? You will be lost. He says, God, I got everything
Right.
that I could have wanted ever.
Right.
In fact, you want something?
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. You are in that state of giving.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what is outside.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right. So you're enjoying, but you're not enjoying.
You are
the
enjoying 24/7.
Yeah.
There is no restrictions.
And you cannot explain that. I mean, it's
Yeah,
all
you have
about
to
feeling.
feel
Exactly.
Right.
You cannot, what type of
You can
enjoyment,
only-
I mean,
yeah.
everybody says that. Whoever feels that, like, they
Only
get,
experience.
It's
Can't-
only
it's
the
a matter of
experience.
experience.
That's
You
why
cannot
they say
by
once you are
word.
in samadhi, all your questions ka samadhan.
Yes.
Samadhi.
Yeah.
All samadhan comes.
All the answer comes
All the
when you
answers
start
are-
asking questions.
See, questions arise because of the disease that is there. It's a rogue. When the disturbed mind is there, it's a disease.
So it's, I mean, in short, like, if you want to explain it, it's a 1 second of aha moment,
Right.
stretch it to forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
That's
And
it, yeah.
that's
Right.
what you can
so
explain.
Kodak
yeah.
moment
Yeah.
is all the
Yeah.
time.
Aha. I mean, you feel like something inside, you know. It's
Right. So they say when you have questions, it's only a manifestation. See, when somebody has a fever, The fever is not a disease. Fever
Indication
is a
of disease.
manifestation of a disease.
It's an
So your
indication of
questions can be answered. Every question, there is an answer in scriptures. But when the question answer session is taking place, only the symptoms are being treated. When you take Tylenol, the fever goes away. But the disease, where all these bacteria are fighting, we are not reaching to the root. So the solution for that is to go down to the root. And when you are in samadhi, the question starts diminishing. And then ultimately you don't have any questions. So at that point, you are happy, everybody is happy, then there is no problem. Then the silence just happens. There are no questions. There is no need for questions and answers. The words are not needed. It's just a transcendental existence. That is all there is. So,
This guy has ended this book very nicely. This
Power of
Power of Now.
Hmm.
He says, when do you realize that you have enlightened? And then answer is, when you have no more questions.
Right. That's
so
And that's the state of enlightenment. That means you have no questions. You know all the answers.
So Jin Chandra Maharaj says that build relations, but don't get bound by it. You always are going to have relationship with people, with objects, with situations, but don't get bound by it. You always remember your true independent existence that is always there, even before the relations were built and even after the relations are gone. So as long as you realize the impermanence of the relationship and your own permanent nature, then it's easy to see everything as so. They say you build relations, but don't get bound by it. Enjoy it at the same time, all the relationship, but then be ready for that relationship also to be broken. But then you should be able to walk away without any hesitation from it. So the change itself, we have to be ready, and we have to appreciate that's going to happen. It's like kaleidoscope. All the images are constantly changing, right? It's rotating right in front of you. All the beautiful glass pieces and everything is creating all this new. But if you happen to just like one particular image, that's a mistake. And because the change is always, you have no control on the kaleidoscope. It's continuously rotating. There's no point in getting attached to one particular image. But we want that, and that's where we're suffering. So we want all the moments to be frozen. That, okay, it has to be available all the time. Then we are suffering. So there are two forms to any object, person or situation. Dravya form or pariyar form. Dravya is the substratum which makes everything. Paramatma, the permanent factor that is responsible for creating you, creating her, creating him, everything. If you think of that as a permanent thing, there is no point in getting attached or running away from that object or people or situation. It doesn't matter, because then you're thinking of Dravya form. Pariyar form is a temporary form, temporary existence that has been given to you as it is. Yesterday we had a couple in my office. Husband is 53 inches, 4 foot 5 inches. Wife is just about the same, right? Both are happily married, very funny people. We had jokes and we laughed and everything. Then came to a point that wife says, what should we do to raise the height of our children? She's not pregnant yet. I said, is there something I can do right now? Because in fact, I'm thinking of even not having children. I said, that's the worst mistake you can have. If it is in you, I said, is there anything wrong with you? They're pretty confident about yourself. Is there anything wrong with you other than the height? No. We are very happy. We enjoy our life. And I said, so why not? I said, God makes everything for a reason. Reasons we may not know, because knowledge is limited, because senses are limited. So with our limited capacity, we may not be able to see what is the purpose. But when we think of the grand scheme, there is always a purpose. And when we don't see that purpose, we start criticizing. Somebody's short, somebody's tall, somebody's this, somebody's that. And she had tears in her eyes. I said, there is nothing wrong with you. Only there is something wrong. If somebody comments on you, something wrong with their mind, not with you. It is their problem, not your problem. So I said, go, express yourself. Whichever way, if you have motherhood built into you, just go for it. Don't worry about it, And whatever happens, and whatever science can do for you, will do for you. And if it cannot, it cannot. I said, who knows? I'm 5'5", but my son is 5'8.5". I said, who knows, with blessings of America, with healthy nutrition, he will be tall. Or whoever. I said, don't worry about it.
I used to think that way too, and somebody said, you know what? Go for swimming, then
Right.
you use
I
your
know.
whole body and all that. You stretch your body
Right,
so
right.
much, you will become tall.
Exactly.
I used to
But
go
we get hooked on physical characteristics so much. I mean, we lose the fun of the enjoyment that can come
what you
from.
are.
Exactly. Your permanent existence, we are losing the advantage of that, and that's why we have suffering. So, but the thing is that the most precious thing that you can think of, besides the objects and all the pleasures and all that, is your lifespan, is your life itself. But even that is unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, in 2 seconds from now, or whatever may be the case. So even that cannot last, logically thinking. So, so you can't rely on that, and so that is like a breeze that comes and goes. Even your lifespan can disappear any minute. All the sensual pleasures that you can have, they are like evening sky colors. You look at that. 5 minutes later, you take a break and come back, and oh my God, it's gone. We see, like every morning we run, and if Deepak is 5 minutes late, he misses it like that. It's gone. And if I'm late and I misses it, and you say, oh, it was so good. So the colors are changing all the time, and that's how Hanuman used to be a prince in his previous life, they say. And one day he was standing on the terrace, and he was looking at the evening sky. And as he's standing, as he's looking at it, like seconds to seconds to second, the colors are changing so fast, and he gets vairagya immediately. He says, even look at the life, it's so unpredictable. All this pleasure that I'm getting is like disappearing right in front of my eyes. Then what is permanent? That's when his quest for permanent structure or permanent something rises. That's when he finds Ram in his next life, So that shows sometimes looking at these things, it can create detachment in your mind all the time. So whatever you see and whatever you do, if your mind is questing for all these things, looking for something permanent, you're going to find it. Even looking at the ocean, people look at the ocean and then complain that, oh, the ocean is dirty and whatever may be the case and this and that and all that, and leave and come home. But when you look at the ocean, there is a constant change coming, and you can have a profound philosophical thoughts in your mind, and that can take you in a different direction altogether. So there is always something to learn from the nature. And was that insect that has stuck in my head in that insectarium. That was amazing, right? It was like what nature can do is amazing. We had seen that insect that had a camouflage, and that insect looks like a leaf. And not just a leaf,
It
like
feels
a
like
torn leaf.
Only with a little bit.
With a little bit holes punched out.
Can change the color and shape both.
But that's in chameleon. But the leaf itself, the leaf insect cannot change the color, but at least it can blend with his surroundings.
Like a leaf, right.
So it was a beautiful show that we had seen in the insectarium in Montreal. It was amazing. It's like, it looks like a leaf. Even if you
Feels
touch
like
it,
it.
it feels like a leaf. And it was such a gentle creature. You can play with it on your palm. And you touch it, it feels like a leaf. So it's just one way of camouflage that nature has given it to you. And look at the immensity of the nature, how the nature creates all. Some of the insects, they look like a dead leaf. Dead leaf with a fungus on it. As if the dead leaf is going through the fungal infection, and in the fall, it's typical like that. Until it moves, you cannot tell.
Even the tweak.
It looks like a dead twig. And once I was in my backyard, in a vegetable garden, and I was going to pick something that was there. It was fresh looking. It was a praying mantis. The praying mantis looks like a big long stick, and the head is like that. We were sitting right next to the twig. I could have picked it up. And it was amazing. So it just shows that all these experiences, if you think, the nature is a beautiful, because it always gives, but if you give it a time, the nature expresses itself. But somebody who never pays attention, but when you dwell in your own ego and your own pleasures, to you it's all annoyance. And then you're really losing out. That's what we're talking about. Until you give up all that notions, the flow starts externally. And then the nature starts revealing its secrets, So the same way, so nature, if you can read tons of things on the books, but until you go and see it in person, it's not gonna hit you into your heart, right? So the same way Vivekananda says that no matter how much you talk about, the book that you're supposed to read is the book of consciousness, the book of mind. That you can do it in meditation. You don't need all these external books. The real book is for you to go inside and read. And then reading, and ultimately you'll see the pages, and pages will keep on turning, and ultimately you will reach all the thoughts. Like Chirag says, all the birds will go, and they will leave a blank sky. That's when you reach samadhi. So they say Ayushya, or your lifespan, is like a breeze. It comes like, what is 70, 80, 90 years of life? What is it compared to billions of years that evolution has happened? That's nothing. So sensual pleasures are like sky colors. They can disappear anytime. So, and the wealth comes with its own problems. So all the material possessions that you have, and again, yoga and kshema, all the efforts you have to go through to acquire